Okay, I'm gonna assume you all clicked the video being quite curious about who on earth is Kamen Rider Buffa. Well, before I start the story, I'll give a brief explanation since I don't really have a script going on, so yeah. Alright, so Kamen Rider Buffa is from Kamen Rider Geats, which I believe is the 23rd entry in the Kamen Rider series. And he sort of acts like the anti-hero villain character during the series. His main motivation is to crush all Kamen Riders because of what two Kamen Riders did to his friend. And he can't really see past all that yada 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 yada. And his Kamen Rider ID is Buffa, as a buffalo, and his real name is Michinaga, or Michi as Bedaba calls him. God, I hate her. So as to why I'm making this video, and why I chose Buffa instead of the main character Geats, or Tycoon, who is my favorite, I love that guy, he's fun. Well, I thought it would be interesting to pick Buffa, because Tycoon would just be normal Deku, but not as pushy. And Geats, well, maybe another time. Geats is too perfect. Ace is too perfect. And I figured, it'd be fun to see what happens if I picked Buffa. Now, a few rules before we start this. 1. Deku will actually be a reincarnation. You know, so I can have memories implemented and stuff. And 2, he'll get his ID core at a young age, but his driver at a much later age. And 3, if you have watched Kamen Rider Geats, you would know about the buckles and the Desire Grand Prix. I'm actually gonna change some things around that and make it similar to solo leveling, where it's a system, but how should I explain this? Right, for this system, Buffa will have to complete missions in order to get new buckles, and gain points, in order for him to get his wish. The amount of points he need will be, let's say 1,000,000 for now. I'm still working out the kinks. But unlike the system in solo leveling, his punishments come from not meeting stretch goals, and as such he'll lose points. So yeah, he kind of has to keep working. So yeah. Wish me luck as I try to freestyle this. Okay, so the story begins with the birth of Izuku. Standard stuff for the most time. He grows up around Kachan and stuff without knowing his past. However, one thing to know is Deku has... his hairstyle will be more similar to Michi, and he would have brown highlights in it, brown tips in his hair. As shown by some artwork I'll put on screen. However, he grows up relatively normal until the day he finds out he's quirkless. And let's just say he's quite devastated, because he wants to be a hero and all that. And so, the scene plays out where Bakugo is bullying some kid and Deku steps in. And he goes, "You can't do anything without a quick Deku." God, I fucking hate Bakugo so much. I hope he dies. Actually, he did, but Headshot just had to save him. Why, Headshot? You're my favorite! Sorry for the side tangent. And Midoriya, of course, gets beaten up and stuff and goes, "Men are not created equally," or stuff like that. Okay, but let's get on to the more important part. After this whole fight thing, the kid who Izuku defended thanks him, saying, "Thank you so much. I don't know why he was acting like that, you know?" He goes, "Yeah, no worries. I'm just glad you're okay." And he introduces himself, and the kid goes, "Oh, I'm gonna call him Steve." Yeah, I just came up with that. "I'm Steve." And the two kind of have a quick chat before Steve has to get home, because he kind of has some bruises. And so does Izuku, because Bakugo just figured, "Oh, I could just set explosions, he'll survive." God, Why do people like this man? Anyways, just when Izuku's about to leave, he notices something on the ground. And he sees a little plastic circle thing with what looks like a buffalo on the front. And he goes, huh, that's weird. And just when he picks it up, he suddenly gets flashes of memories. A home with an abusive father, a buffalo toy, a friend, a bunch of thugs being beaten up, a friend dying, Geats, and then that's when it clicks. Izuku remembers who he is. He remembers his past life as Michinaga. And so he begins to act more like him. Like he goes, What was that? I remember. What's this doing here? He's just very confused at the moment, so yeah. But from that day onward, people sort of notice Izuku change. He doesn't really glaze Bakugo or just hang out with him. He just kind of does his own thing. And Deku just begins to kind of just train. Or Michinaga. I'll kind of refer to them back and forth when it matters. So, yeah. Anyways, so he just thinks, might as well just do some exercise and stuff. He just decides to try and live a normal life. He doesn't have to worry about the games, he doesn't have to worry about losing a friend. In fact, why did I include Steve? I know I'm gonna have someone else killed. Sorry, spoilers. Yeah. He just tries to enjoy a life he didn't really have as a child, because, mind you, Michinaga ran away from home at a very young age because of his father. So he just enjoys having a mother for once. And yeah. And people would start to notice Izuku change. Like, he's more quiet, more rough around the edges. Bakugo tries to taunt him and bully him, but he just kind of has a don't care, didn't ask attitude. Of course, Bakugo would try to throw an explosion at him, but considering the fact this is a grown man inside a child body who has fought against a literal titan with 2 horse faces, says he doesn't really get to do much damage on him as such. So we get to the day of where the teacher goes, I know you want to be heroes! God, why is that teacher so incompetent? Sorry. I just need to rant a lot. So he goes, alright, sell out, I know you all want to be heroes, and starts calling out the people who in which school they're going to. When he gets to Bakugo, goes like, ha! That's right, you extras! I'm the only one who can go to UA! And yeah. And so they all just cheer and stuff like that happens, but then the teacher notices, oh, Izuku, you didn't pick a school? And he goes, nah, just gonna, not really. He just doesn't really care, and that kind of pisses Bakugo. Huh? What's that? Finally finding out how useless you are? And Izuku just goes, nah, just not interested. This just angers Bakugo, who just throws an explosion. But Deku just kind of remains unfazed. And in this timeline, a lot of people kind of respect Izuku more, because he doesn't really do anything to bother them at all. And the teacher goes, Bakugo, please, just calm down. I don't want to... you already beaten up a 5-year-old in the parking lot. That kid deserved it! Sorry, just a bit of comedy. So yeah. And one thing to know is that Michi... You know what, I think I'll just refer to Deku as Michi from now on. Yeah. So Michi... One thing to note is that Michi still has the ID core with him, and he just keeps it really close. Like, yeah, no one really knows about it, and yeah. So he gets up to leave, and Bakugo tries to tell him once more, but he just doesn't really care. And he just sees Bakugo as just some brat. Mind you, this man has seen the worst thing possible in life. He is unfazed by the rants of a teenage chihuahua. Yeah. Anyway, so he goes to leave, and Bakugo just keeps trying to taunt him, but he just doesn't really care. And the goons try to join him, but two gut punches just quickly put them down. And Bakugo's like, you wanna fight? And he goes, no, I want you guys to stop bothering me. For God's sake. And he just leaves, and Bakugo just tries to throw an explosion at him. And Michi just dodges it and just continues on his way. And Bakugo's like, whatever, you quirkless nerd. And he goes, hey, I'm not the one who's studying all the time. Or stuff like that. He just backtalks. Yeah, if I'm assassinating the character, how the character's like, I do apologize. I'm not really good at this, so yeah. Anyway, so Izuku just makes his way and goes down to the underpass. And then all of a sudden he hears a grate pop open, and it's the sludge villain. You're good! I'm gonna need your body! And he tries to grab Izuku's body. And Michi's body. God, I'm gonna switch back and forth between them. He tries to grab Michi's body. But he's quick enough to dodge the first strike, but not the second one. And soon the villain's got a hold on him. And just when he's about to be taken control of or die, the one and only All Might shows up going, I am here! Punching the punch! Yeah, and then All Might just saves Michi, and that whole scene plays out, but instead of being panicking and overexcited, he goes, oh, you're All Might. Cool. And All Might's like, that's not the reaction I was expecting. And he goes, I'm not like most others. And then he just notices something. Then he notices something on his shirt and goes, did you sign my shirt? This is a reference to when Ace signed Michi's shirt when he didn't have his memories back. And All Might goes, yes I did! And he goes, this is dry clean only! Like, do you know how... Oh my... And All Might goes, oh, I am very sorry, young man. He goes, fine, just carry on your day. And he just leaves. Now, All Might also leaves, but he drops the sludge villain. Because let's face it, he was gonna fall out one way or another. And so, this is where things start to change. When Izuku gets home, he notices his mother is in here, and he goes, must be out. I'll try calling her. And just when he's about to call her, he gets a phone call. And he picks it up and goes, Midoriya residence, Izuku speaking. And then the other person on the side, hello, Izuku Midoriya, is it? I'm Officer Yuchi. And Izuku's like, and in his mind like, crap, what does he want? And he goes, what can I help you with, officer? He goes, you have a mother named Inko Midoriya, right? And he goes, yes, last time I checked. And the next words that come out, and Izuku doesn't really hear the next words come out from the officer, but in the next scene, he's at a hospital, running quickly to a specific room. And when he finds that room, he sees Bakugo there, with a bit of bruises and stuff, and he goes... And also a doctor. You must be Izuku Midoriya, right? Your mother's in the room next door. And Izuku's like, tell me what happened. And then this is what the doctor explains. Well, you see, this Katsuki Bakugo was taken hostage by the sludge villain. The heroes did their best to minimize the damage and try to stop him, but due to his work and the sludge villain trying to take control of him, there was a lot of debris and damages. Unfortunately, well, your mother was caught in one of them. Izuku turns to Bakugo and saying, Kago, and goes, "Why?" And Bakugo's like, "Shut up, you damn nerd. This could ruin my hero career." And this is where Izuku sort of just snaps. Goes, "Your hero career? My mother is most likely dead because of you!" He goes, "I wasn't responsible for this." And Izuku goes, "No, you were. Maybe if you keep that quirk under control, she wouldn't be here right now." And the doctor goes, "Okay, calm down, both of you. Midoriya, would you mind following me?" And Izuku goes, "Yeah, sure." And then he sees his mother in a hospital bed. But there's no machines hooked up, nothing. The doctor went, "I didn't want to let Katsuki Bakugo know, but your mother is dead." And Izuku just drops to his knees. It just goes, "Oh. No, 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 no." It's very similar to what happened with Michi when he saw his friend die. Hold on, just a quick water break. That's refreshing. And the doctor goes, "I'm very sorry for your loss. If you mind coming with me, could you sign some documents real quick?" And so Izuku does, and the documents are to prepare for a funeral, but he does notice a line saying, he does notice a strange part in the paperwork, which basically acknowledges Bakugo that all of this was an accident, and in his mind he goes, "So you want me to admit it's an accident? For what?" And he begins to ask them about this, saying, "Hey, what's this about?" And the doctor goes, we don't know. We were told to include that by the Heroes Association. If I had to guess, they saw how impressive he was, and figured if you were to admit it was an accident, his hero career can still continue. I'm sorry, but unfortunately you will be forced to sign this, otherwise there will be consequences." And he goes, "Damn it." In his mind, and he just thinks back to the Desire Grand Prix. All of that, and goes, "This world is no different from it." So he just reluctantly signs it. And the doctor goes, "Oh, by the way, do you have any living relatives?" And Izuku goes, "Yeah, I do. My father, he comes home very late." Basically lying. He goes, "Oh, okay, well, we were quite worried." He goes, "Don't worry." So Izuku just leaves the hospital and goes back home. And on his way back, he thinks, this world is just the same as that one. Thought maybe it would be different, but no. If only I had my driver, I could crush all these heroes. They allowed this to happen. What was stopping? That, mind you, he wouldn't know about All Might being there, because they kind of kept that out and stuff. But when he makes it back home, that's when something surprises him. A box. A small yellow box. Michi instantly recognizes this and rushes over to open it. And in there, he finds his Desire driver. And he goes, "Ha. Guess just my luck." So he puts it on, he puts it and the buckle on, and then tries to activate it. And he goes, "Henshin!" but it doesn't work. And he goes, what? Why isn't it working? And all of a sudden, a pop-up window opens. And it goes, do you accept these terms to be... Do you accept the responsibility of becoming a Kamen Rider? It goes, what the f... This isn't new. But he decides, you know what do I have left to lose? And there wasn't really much information other than what I just said. So he accepts, and then a short video plays out. And in that, basically explained to him how this will work. Since you accepted to become a Kamen Rider, you will be given access to the Desire Grand Prix interface and buckle shop. By completing missions, you may gain new buckle. Then by completing secret ones, you will get rarer and more powerful ones. And that if you reach the specific goal set, you will have one wish granted to you. The current points you need to get your wish granted is 1 million. It goes, huh. So this is just a Desire Grand Prix, but solo. I just realized that. And the system basically goes, by completing specific tasks, you gain points. By helping civilians, you gain points. By defeating villains, you will gain points. And he goes, what about heroes? And just as if the system is reading his mind, it goes, heroes do not count towards points, and do not affect them in any way. And then just a big old grin forms on his face going, good. The system also states that he should now be able to transform. And so he tries his henshin again, and then that's when he becomes Kamen Rider Buffa. Now, a few things I should clarify. Izuku is gonna be as tall as Michi was, for just reasons. Because I said so. I'm speaking. Anyway, so Izuku decides to make some lunch and take out his game plan, because he's gonna need money, and he's also gonna need to get stronger, because unlike in the world of Kamen Rider, unlike his last world, some of these people can shoot lasers out of their eyes or just summon black holes. So he decides, I'm gonna be a lot smarter about this than I was last time. So he begins to study a bit about heroes and decides to train himself up and grow more muscles. But he also realizes he will need money. So he decides to go for a walk late at night because he can. And while he's walking, he notices a mugging going on. And during that moment, it's just an old lady, just some typical crook trying to steal an old lady's purse. So he quickly ducks into an alleyway and transforms into Buffa. And the crook goes, "Give me your money, you damn hag! I'll go knives for fingernails, you can't do anything!" And oh god, my voice hurts. Oh god, ow, ow, ow. And then all of a sudden, he just gets punched really hard. Where he crashes into a light post. And the old lady goes, "Oh my god! Thank you!" Ah! Then she notices Buffa. Goes, "Be careful next time." And he goes to check on the crook and notices he passed out. And he goes, I would like to beat him up more, but doesn't look like he's gonna cause more problems. But he then grabs a nearby rope and just ties the crook to the lamppost. And while he's doing this, the old lady asks, are you by any chance a vigilante? And he goes, no. Just someone who saw an old lady in danger and decided to help. And he goes, well thank you, young man. I must say you have a peculiar quirk. And he goes, no, maybe. And he just says, make your way home quickly. It's getting late. And she goes, "Ah, yes, I will. Thank you." And then she leaves. The system notifies him that he gained around 10 points for stopping a mug, and he goes, 10 points for that? Huh. I wonder what happens if it was bigger. And he also got another 5 points for, well, defeating a villain. Because, mind you, if he stops a crime, he gets points, or if he saves a civilian, he gets points, or defeats a criminal, he gets points. And then he decides to continue his walk, but decides to de-transform as not to gather attention, because it's late at night. And so he just continues his walk, and stops by a convenience store just to get just to get a drink, and then makes his way home. He decides to check out the system shop, and notices he can exchange his points for basically money. And he goes, I don't need to get a job, but he then realizes if he does this, he won't ever reach 1 million. So he decides to look around for a job, and ends up online. And but since it's late, he decides to do it tomorrow, since he's been given a week off because of the news, and he just lets his school know. His school has been informed that he's just sick. So he decides to, look for a job tomorrow. And as they sleep, he thinks, Mom, I will avenge you. And I won't, if I couldn't, and I will make sure that all heroes are crushed. Because he feels incredible guilt. Like, this isn't where in Kamen Rider there was awfully good guys and bad guys. He saw corruption up front, but this time he won't be in a blind rage. There are heroes he does acknowledge to be, good in a sense, but not really. So the next day he wakes up, makes himself some breakfast, and looks online for any jobs. He does find out about a construction job, and since Michi worked as a construction worker in his last life, he decides to apply it. And and the interview is in 2 days, so he decides to do some exercise and stuff before he goes back home and takes some notes on some heroes and makes a list. And as for who will be on this list, I will probably do that at a later time. So he decides to go for a run, and notices Deku beach. He then goes, that's a trashed up beach. But he decides to go there, see what's up and stuff. And decides, not much people around. Maybe I can train here and practice. So he decides to use Deku Beach as his sort of training ground. And then, so for the few, so he uses this training to get used to remember how his Kamen Rider, his entry form field and stuff like that. And when he gets back home, he decides to make a list of heroes to target and decides to study up about them. He starts looking at the top heroes. All Might, who he notices who has so much strength, and he goes, yeah, no way I'm finding them, that's for sure. And also he's not really that bad of a guy. But he does still hold him accountable for losing the sludge villain. So he just probably chalks it up to, it being an accident. But the next time he's gonna see him, he's gonna chew him out. Next up is Endeavor, who is a no-nonsense guy. And Michi just can't help but feel like there's more to him. And he goes on, and then the day of the interview comes. He shows up at the construction site. The boss goes, "Huh? You wanna work here?" He goes, "Yeah." "There's a problem?" He goes, "No, not that. It's just you kinda seem young." He goes, I have a lot of experience." And the boss goes, okay. And he decides to quiz him on stuff related to construction. And Izuku passes and he goes, you weren't kidding. "Yeah, well, seeing as you're kind of young, we can only have you for limited days, so that's fine. I don't really mind." And he goes, "Cool. Uh, can you start like next week?" He goes, "Yeah, sure, I should be able to." It was great, great, great. Yeah, come. Our weekend's good. And he goes, "Yeah, sure, not really much going on those days." And he goes, "Great." Yeah. It's a bit awkward because, this small boy kind of outquizzed him. So yeah, then for the next few days, he just begins training and stuff, and also construction. People would notice there was kind of a change with Izuku. Like, they go, "Hey man, you alright?" He goes, "Never better." And Bakugo, he himself, he goes, eh. He doesn't really care about it, he doesn't. But yeah, 5 months in, because it's 10 months before the UA entrance exam, Izuku decides to do another late night walk. Because he noticed this, he needs to get points. He realized that. So he decides to transform, and then proceeds to do a night patrol. Yeah, in this version, Izuku is a vigilante. So, yeah. Anyways, he goes on night patrol. Not much really going on. He tries to avoid the patrolling heroes. Yeah, but he does see a bunch of criminals about to attempt a robbery, but he then proceeds to stop them because they're just a bunch of low-tier criminals who have incredibly weak quirks. Like, one of them has needles on his body. The other just has big permanent knuckle dusters, and the last guy has multiple eyes on his head. And after he's beaten them up, he proceeds to tie him up and goes, "This world is really full of freaks." And then he quickly shuts himself down, saying, "Guess I'm also a freak as well." Because remembering when he became a Giamato. And he kind of sort of misses them. Because they at least were sort of entertaining to him. They were to me. Alright, so he continues this night patrol, stopping some petty criminals and stuff. Until there was one day, like 7 months in. He's doing another night patrol. The heroes haven't really noticed his presence. But then there's this criminal. There's this back alley deal that's going on. There's 5 criminals in this. Some just looking like bland thugs. I'm not gonna give every single criminal a quirk. But the last guy is like this buff marble looking guy. And he kind of just notices this, and the guy goes, "Alright, so you all remember that stuff. The quirk drug that was all the craze but then disappeared. Well, I happen to got some leftovers. I'll pay you handsomely for them. I'll give you guys for a good price." And Izuku goes, "Drug dealing? I guess I can stop him." And just as when these guys are about to do the deal, Aizawa shows up and then proceeds to kind of fight them. He goes, you're all under arrest for drug dealing and stuff. I just want to go back to my kids. Yeah. And the basic mook guys try to fight him, but they're not really doing so good. But the marble guy is also giving him trouble, because Aizawa can't really erase his quirk, because it's a permanent thing, because he's immune. Aizawa's kind of struggling with it, going, well, that's my luck. And then that's when Buffa shows up, running forward, and then punching the rock. Oh shoot, I dropped my mark guard. Okay. And just punching the rock guy. Like, it's a pretty powerful punch, knocking him back. And Aizawa was kind of shocked there. He goes, Vigilante. And Buffa goes, you okay? And Aizawa says, yeah, I'm fine. This is a pain. Yeah, but the marble guy goes, you guys think you could break my chance of making money? God, I'm really hurting my vocal cords in this. And then proceeds to just kind of rush him, but Buffa, being quite strong due to training and such, just dodges his pathetic excuse of an attack and proceeds to just land another hit. But he knows he's not really doing much damage, so he decides to fight a little dirty and grab a random metal pipe, and then proceeds to absolutely wail on the guy, like bam, 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 bam. And until the rock guy, mind you, his body's made of stone, but that doesn't mean his pain tolerance is. And he just beats him up till he's unconscious. And he goes, oh, that does it. And just when he's about to leave, Aizawa launches his capture scarf and goes... And Buffa's like, hey, what the hell? And Aizawa goes, sorry, vigilantism is a crime. I'm gonna have to bring you in. He goes, just after I save you. God, looks like all your heroes are the same. Aizawa's tried to just use his erasure quirk on Izuku, but it doesn't work, and he goes, maybe another mutation quirk. And just as when he thinks he has the situation under control, Buffa just breaks open the ropes and makes a run for it. But Aizawa goes, damn it, stop running! And he tries to catch him, but Buffa is quite fast. And just when he thinks... And he manages to lose Aizawa and detransform. Aizawa, after this encounter, is forced to report about this mysterious person. And the next morning, Izuku hears the news about a new vigilante on the scene, who people are calling the Purple Buffalo. And he goes, really? That's a lame name. So he decides to check his points, and then notices he has enough points to buy a buckle. And he decides, maybe this will help. And the buckle he decides to buy is the hammer buckle. No, wait, not the hammer buckle. That's more of a neon thing. He gets the drill buckle. Cool. Which he has used before. He gets it and goes, this could help. And yeah. Anyways, I think I'm gonna leave this off right here. In the next episode of this, we will cover the USJ attack, because mind you, Izuku's not going to UA, but he's gonna get special missions, and this will be his first one. And also the and also the Stain arc, if I could. But right now, all of this is unscripted, so yeah. And if you guys aren't interested in this, I'm still gonna make it, because one day someone will just go, hey, can you make more of this? And yeah. Anyways, that is all for today. So see ya, people.